Welcome here at Veil of Sound. And I remember a few years ago, 5 years ago, when we started this, we made lists with artists that we would like to interview. So, like a bucket list. I can tick off one more today because I'm very, very happy to have Mark and Andrew from Hammock here on the show. So, gentlemen, thanks for joining.
Thank you for having us.
That was nearly simultaneous, like twins. Yeah. Okay.
We've been working a long time.
It's actually, I normally do the plug of the day first and then the icebreaker, but as we already go into it, I have an icebreaker for you. Did you guys know, or do you guys know which anniversary is in 2026? For you too.
For us?
Mm-hmm.
I knew we were going to get stumped.
I mean,
I didn't know it'd be this early.
I think the first musical collaboration that you guys did was in Common Children, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And in 1996, 30 years ago, you released your first full-length, Skywire.
Really? Yeah. Oh my gosh. That is insane. Wow. Oh, it seems like it seems like 3 lifetimes ago, you know?
Yeah, but also means that the 2 lifetimes in between must have been cool ones, right?
The last lifetime has been pretty nice. Yeah.
The median ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. The learning curve.
Yeah, the in-between sucked.
So, but let's go to the thing that we normally do first here on the Veil of Sound, the plug of the day. And people who follow us might have an idea which band I will plug, but I'm gonna plug one of their records in particular. A few weeks ago, we had somebody here on the show that I'm very sure you know, Jimmy from the album Leaf.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And as one of his records is being re-released in a few weeks when we record this, when this will be out, it's already been out. I think out of all the records that he did, I think One Day I'll Be on Time should be on more people's playlists again.
I completely agree with that. That is that's probably my favorite from him.
Mm-hmm. So you can plug a band, a record, a project, whichever you like, unless you are in it.
I think they're an older band, but not many people listen, but Idaho. So I'm going to plug Jeff Martin and Company, Idaho. They're recently started playing shows again and put out a new record. And we have a love for them because he approaches it with he strings his guitars with only 4 strings, and he does everything analog, no digital whatsoever. And we just kind of like the immediacy of that. And he's always had ambient soundscapes that he's done with guitars. So that's who we would plug.
I think that was one of the first bands that we really, really connected over to.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, Mark, that's what you would plug. We don't know what Andrew wants to plug. Maybe he wants to plug Celtic Frost or something like that.
You're right. Actually, we just met up with some friends of ours over the weekend, a band called South for Winter. Mm-hmm. Half of the band is from New Zealand, so that's a bit for them. But Nick and Danny Stone, they're quite good, amazing musicians. But yeah,
wonderful plugs, gentlemen. I have a question about the way that you perceive music. When listening to your music and also reading some of the things that you have said about the new record, I posed myself a question and I want to give it to you. Do you think that music is maybe one of the best possibilities for comments on life, on time, actual or latest news or anything? Is it one of the best outlets for it?
You mean like for social commentary or?
For example, social,
Yeah.
political.
I mean, certainly. Yeah. I don't know that it's always the best, but what I do know is I think that music is good for life overall, meaning that there's times that still to this day, there's something magic about. I just got back from Big Sur, California. I did a week long silent retreat, and I say silent, but I can listen to music, but I don't listen to a lot. But I have a Big Sur playlist.
You're silent, right?
Right. I have a Big Sur playlist, and and it's what I call kind of like when you listen to the right kind of music in the right environment, it's almost as if you see the world with music in your eyes. Yeah. And it kind of takes on this enchantment. It kind of, it's an old story, but my wife, whenever she was listening to our music, one day on her way to school, she was a school teacher, and she'd taken that route every day for probably 2 or 3 years in a row. And she put on our music, and she just happened to notice a tree that she hadn't seen before. And I think that that's kind of the magic of what music can do, because it's so immediate. It gets in you, and then it fills up the space, and it influences what you're seeing. And so in that regard, yes, I do think probably music is the most immediate of the art forms that can have an immediate impact on how you're viewing and experiencing your environment.
Yeah, it can help you be more present.
Yes.
In the moment.
Yeah.
To experience those things. Like, I love that story about Christine the tree. It really is. It's very poignant.
And I think also, here's what I'll say about the social commentary part of it. Mm-hmm. I think that having some anger and an outlet for certain things is really important. But I also don't think that anger for anger's sake is necessarily adding to the conversation. It's just can sometimes be more noise on top of noise. Yeah. So to me, I'm all for the noise, but I hope the noise has a point.
Yeah. In that aspect, maybe Jill Scott Heron is better to vent your anger at political topics than, for example, Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah. Although I do love some Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, I think we all three of us do, don't we?
Yeah.
I also thought about that because I was listening to the new record and I was going through some of the lyrics, and the first lyrics that we hear on the new record is on the second track. We close our eyes so we can't see, and the first thing we hear is maybe tonight, maybe we will see the light. I think that is also something that, on a very personal level can just simply help a lot of us. Like, okay, things might be really dark, but we can get through. And that is something that I always loved about Hammock. There is always something in the music which is uplifting, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
I'm very sure that is not the word that you try to bring music to, but is that something that is important to you to bring some kind of light into the world with Hammock?
I would say so. I think we approach it in a way that is it's cathartic for us. Mm-hmm. It helped us get through. And a lot of that comes through in the music in spite of ourselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And we're both very happy that it helps other people, but in the initial stages, it really is to just get all this out.
Yeah. And I think a good example is when we were playing a show, right before we went on, someone got stabbed outside, outside the venue. And so there were cops coming, and we're getting ready to go do this. It was when we were doing an ambient set. So it wasn't, there were no drums. It was just really a beautiful kind of, and we just looked at each other and we said, let's put some beauty back in the world. Right. And I think that it's always important. I think that there's toxic positivity, and then there's that kind of fake let's go guys, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is not art. I think for something to have some kind of reference or meaning, it's got to have some tension in it. And so I think that what we hear the most about Hammock's music is that it can be both sad and beautiful at the same time. And I think that's what life can be, is sad and beautiful. A lot of times when you might hear somebody go, man, I got a lot of life happening right now. And most of the time when we say that, we mean there's like a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah.
But also, what if it meant that there's also some really great stuff that sometimes we're forgetting, we're not noticing, it's overshadowed. And that's why I think we close our eyes so we can see. Sometimes you got to take a step back. Like I went to Big Sur to do that silent retreat.
Yeah.
You got to take a step back to get more of a panoramic view, and so that you're not like smothering, focused in on everything, but you can get a broader picture of life with a capital L.
It's interesting that you speak about the broader picture, because that's also something that I wrote down exactly about the first track on the new record, because it exemplifies very nicely how I think Hammock music works. We get the little first note, which then meanders in a short reverb. And the second one puts another layer on top, opens it up a little wider. The third one opens it up more and more and more. This building of things, I think that is songs. I think that is something that you by now have perfected. How much work did it take you guys to get to this point where everything flows so well into each other?
It takes a lot of work. It still takes a lot of work. There's a lot that goes into getting these things to feel the way they should. We have probably a better handle on how to get there, but the focus and the intent is just as intense as it has always been, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to create a false sense of crescendo where like you kick on a distortion pedal and boom, there you are, and a lot of post-rock bands do that very well. Bash a cymbal, kick on some distortion, and you're there. I think with Hammock, our approach has always been to try to layer melody upon melody upon melody. And, it's like our manager always says, sometimes he feels like when he's listening to our approach with guitars, it's almost like the way the Beach Boys would do, their harmonies.
That sounds,
and so I think that's a great compliment, but also,
God only knows what big of a compliment it is.
There you go.
Very good.
But I do think that it takes time for the build to feel natural rather than forced. And that's something I think that only comes from working together for a long time.
30 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long time. I mean, we trust each other. We allow each other to have space. And the most important thing is we allow the music to have space, because we start
time.
Exactly. We start something. We think this is it. This is where this is going on the record for sure. And but because we've chosen to stay self-released, I mean, we've had record deal offer, of course, but we've chosen to stay self-released because we feel like the type of music that we make requires time to sit with it, to figure out where it's taking us, rather than we're trying to take it somewhere.
Yeah. And also, especially what is I find very interesting is that when listening to your music, a lot of people would probably think that it's more or less completely synths. But it's quite the opposite, right? It's still mostly guitar, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's
depending on the record, but it's always based in guitar.
Yeah, I mean, like even our ambient records, like Elsewhere, Nevertheless, and Maybe They Will Sing, that would be really easy to think that those are mostly synths, but they're primarily guitars. Now, I will say on Mysterium, Oblivion Hymn, Silencia, those more orchestrated type, you know, people could probably think that those are synths too, but that's like actually a lot of
those are real.
Those are real strings. That's real people playing. You know,
human beings.
They're in Budapest playing a lot of strings. You know, so I think that's also been what's been fun about what we do is that, you know, we don't play out a lot, hardly ever these days. So there's a little bit of mystery about, you know, who we are and what we do. And I think that's also cool with when people hear, they make assumptions about what they're listening to and what instruments are there. And they could probably, most of the time, if they're assuming they're synths, they're probably wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. It's getting back to something that Andrew hinted at. The music that we hear on whichever record, it's still mostly based on guitar things that cross your mind. So it's the songwriting starts with a 6 string.
It depends on the songs, really. Some things, mostly things will come about via the guitars, but sometimes it'll come about, you know, on piano or keyboards, and then get stretched out in different directions.
I would say that probably because lately I've had a limited synth library, that the stuff I've been writing has been coming more from guitar, and then some of the things that Andrew's bringing have been coming a little more from synths because he has such a great library of sounds to choose from. And so it ends up balancing itself out. And then a lot of times, you know, we just will take whatever one of us have worked on, and then we'll reverse it, split it up, take only one section and make a whole song out of that, you know? So I think it's primarily guitar, but we don't have a set rule of, you know, it's just whatever is good for music is what we'll do.
Whatever happens to be working for that piece.
Exactly.
Something else that I noticed on the new record, or at least I think I had noticed, is the importance of the mix. Because, of course, I mean, like, you record multiple guitar lines for each song, and then in the end, all of it must be put together. And I know that you have been working with one mixer for quite a long time, if I remember that correctly. So how important is the person who mixes your song for the result?
Oh, it's key. That's why we've been using Emery so much lately, Emery Dobbins. He really has plugged into where we're heading and what we're asking out of him. And it's been a really cool relationship with him.
It's almost always a learning curve with mixers, because when you have a vocal that's up the middle, it's really easy to know that that's the focal point, and you make everything serve that, right?
And everything else is a little quieter.
Exactly. But when you have a melody line with this guitar and that guitar, you've got to figure out like which one needs to be the prominent and take the lead. And it's a puzzle to figure out sometimes. You can't mix our albums the same way that you would mix a song in order for a vocal to be put on it. No. Sometimes I think post-rock bands are guilty of that the drums are still super loud, the bass, and you miss some of the detail. With Emery, we did not have that much of a learning curve with him. No. I mean, like he got in there and kind of understood. He didn't immediately make everything zero everything out, and then with his ego start, this is the way I'm going to make it sound. It was like he listened to our rough mixes. He saw where we had things placed, and then he just went about making it better. And that's our favorite kind of collaboration, is that every time we bring somebody in, it should be better because they were involved, not worse, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm all for them taking a different direction and seeing if it works, you know? Yeah. That's always great. But when you do that just for the sake of doing that, that's not how our music works.
Yeah. Then the question, did he ever find something in your tracks by mixing them differently than what you had expected? Did he ever find something that was completely different, and where you said like, okay, that is not what we thought this song would be, but we're gonna keep your version?
I'm trying to think.
I think there's probably a couple, but I don't remember what they are.
Yeah, it seems like there were. Yeah.
I mean, the first time that we worked with Tim Poles from the church,
Oh yeah.
and he mixed Chasing After Shadows, Living with the Ghost. He mixed the beat pieces on that. His first mix he sent to us, he said, "This ain't your rough mix anymore," and he had muted all the drums on the first chorus.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "I don't want you to think and make a decision about how you feel about this until the end of our mixing the rest of the record."
Mm-hmm.
And sitting with it for as long as we did, we grew to really like it. And so there are times that something gets peeled away or something else gets focused that we didn't think was the focus. But with Emery, I can't remember what. I do know that the title track, The Second Coming Was a Moonrise, turned out to be a little different in the big section than what we had originally envisioned. Probably that section out of the whole record would be the one where he had a little more hands-on, and the opening track. I think so too, because when that kick hits, boom, when it hits the first time,
Yeah.
it's almost like an industrial Nine Inch Nails type of.
Yeah, there are moments on that track.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the I don't want to say red thread, but one of the major topics behind the record. Before we do that, Mark, do you maybe want to explain the album title in itself? It's a wonderful story, and I don't want to be the one telling you.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to. It's one of my favorite stories. So I grew up
for everybody straight edge who doesn't want to hear anything about drugs. Skip the next 2 minutes.
Yeah, this could be triggering. This could be triggering for you. Having said that, I've been sober for 12 years. So
congratulations.
Yeah, I'm not advocating this. It's just an experience, and this is what happened. When I was younger, I was raised very Christian fundamentalist. I mean, my parents.
We'll also get to that in a moment.
Yeah, and my parents split over that. My mom left my dad because God told her to. And I was 9 when that happened. And so I grew up very much, in this environment. And one of those ones is that, the guys, when I hang out with other people raised the way I was, we call it rapture trauma, which is it's trauma because you think that the rapture is going to happen. And the rapture is at any time Jesus could come back. And if you're in the middle
coming of Jesus, yes.
Right. If you're in the middle of sinning, you're screwed. So I was.
So if you're screwing, you're screwed.
Exactly. So I was screwed a lot because I sinned a whole bunch. So, if I was out one night, this is when I was really young, and I tried to call home, couldn't get a hold of them, and then I looked around and saw all the good kids were not around. I thought, oh man, it's just me and the riffraff now. We got left behind, So, as I got into drugs, I got into psychedelics for a while there. And my friend and I one night had taken acid, and we're sitting on this gazebo, and it overlooked this gorgeous pond, and it's beautiful. And then behind, there's these hills in the distance, and behind the hills, there was this light that kept happening. It's almost like one of those old Hollywood premieres, when you had the light that goes across like that.
Yeah.
And of course we're hallucinating too. So it just keeps getting, and my friend is like, oh no, man, I think Jesus is coming back. This is it. And he drops to his knees, and he immediately starts going, oh God, Jesus, no, please. I'm so sorry, please. And I see this little solid slither of light start to rise up above the hills. And then I kept looking, and I realized it was the moon, and I hit him in the back of the head. And I said, it's the moon. It's just the moon. And obviously he wasn't that upset about the state of his eternal soul, because we smoked a bowl to celebrate that.
That it wasn't Jesus.
So instead of horse riding Jesus, it ended up just being the moon, and the truth is like a lot of this album has to do with not what you see, but how you see.
Yeah.
We rarely see things the way they are. We see things the way we are. And
Yeah.
I asked Emery, who mixes for us, I asked him, he was raised in New York, secular Jewish guy. And I said, if you had been with me tripping on the same drugs that I was tripping on, would you have thought that it was the second coming of Jesus? And he's like, absolutely not. No way. That's no way I would have thought of that.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have that conditioning. You know, he wasn't raised that way.
Yeah.
Being in the
I
South,
bet if you asked my wife, she would also think about the second coming.
Exactly. Right. You
would just say it's Cobain coming back.
The second coming of Cobain.
But sorry, Andrew.
No, that's all good. It's all good.
Andrew was just saying.
I was just saying that it's just par and parcel for growing up here in the South.
That's right.
You're not getting away from that, even if you're not in the church. Yeah. You're being stepped on.
Yeah.
I also remember my year in Atlanta, where no matter how good Saturday was, Sunday morning was, you got to get up at 8. We got to be in church at 10. I was like, shit.
Oh, I have to tell you another time when I was tripping on acid at church. So
you can do both.
That was an accident. My mom tricked me. She goes, "We're not going to church in the morning." And my friend and I were like, "Let's drop acid." After he got off work, it was like 11 p.m. And then she's like, "We're going to church." I was like, "Oh no, what have I done?"
What
well, it can be a very interesting experience at that.
It was. It was.
But you've already hinted at it, and the role of religion in your life. I know that for a few years now you are working with your wife on, if I remember correctly, some kind of worship music. Very interesting combination, by the way. But it's only you and your wife. Andrew is not involved, right?
He played guitar on some of it.
I got roped in.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say it like that, but you did.
No, that's fine. Yeah. Christy is an amazing artist. No matter what she's doing, it is a joy to work with the both of them.
That's a very good thing to say, Barbara. So when I sometimes have the feeling of, or when sometimes listening on this particular record, and even more so, I had the feeling as if I was listening you trying to bring a soundtrack to a new version of, let's say, 2001 Odyssey in Space, or any other kind of sci-fi movie, like traveling vast space differences, which of course is probably just me perceiving it, but is that also some kind of way of getting away from your upbringing, Mark? Like stepping away from all of that further and further and further?
I think Hammock has always been a way to step away from the upbringing. Like when you referred to Christy and I working together, I think that was like 2001, 2002. It was a long time ago, you know, and there's a lot of life that happens and a lot of growth. And I could go into the story of how that record came about. And it was because we had a publishing deal. We were writing songs and we had some songs left over and they were like, you should do them. So those were originally kind of like demos that we had done. And then we ended up putting them out. And it was after doing that my wife, Christy, decided she no longer wanted to do anything in music. She wanted to become a special ed teacher. She works with kids with special needs. She's done that for over 20 years now.
I respect it.
And she still does music on the side, but
with us.
And she has her own band called Luminette, which is really beautiful. I should always push that. Luminette.
I'm just writing it down so we can put it underneath this video.
Matthew Kidd from Slow Meadow, and I produced that record with Christy. Christy produced it too. It's very cool, very shoegazy. But in that regard, it took her going into that experience and saying, nope, I'm not doing that. Mm-hmm. And she and I both very much, I wouldn't even say intentionally worked hard at letting go of some of that. It's just been a natural shedding of conditioning, influences. I was never one that was like an easy person to have. I got kicked out of 2 Christian schools, you know what I mean? So I wasn't always like, I wasn't the one that went along with things. I was a contrarian. I asked a lot of questions. But here's what
I think that happens to a lot of children who are brought up, and no matter which religion, but if you're brought up very fundamental in a very fundamental religious way, then I think you normally end up a contrarian, because
yes,
religion can only explain so much.
That's right. And I will say this. I don't do what a lot of my friends have done, which is I try not to blame everything on that, get angry at it, say it was every bit of it was horrible. I do what I try to call transcend and include, which is I want to transcend what was toxic, what was false, what was harmful. But I always try to include what's good, true, and beautiful, no matter what it is that I've been through. Always try to see the both and in things. And so,
see the moonrise.
Yeah, I just exactly. Yeah. So I think that with this record, where we are right now, I just kind of wanted to be a little more open about my past and the letting go of those things in a way that's not reactionary, but more so, more like an unfolding, like, hey, let me tell you a story. Because once again, we go back to politics. If you grew up believing the way that I did, or was taught to try to believe the way I did, then I don't see how anyone should have a problem with believing that Pete believes that the Iran war is ushering in the second coming of Jesus, or that Donald Trump is chosen by God to bring about a theocracy and a theonomy. When you believe things that aren't true, there's real life consequences to that.
Yeah. When you choose to believe that, you know, a guy like Trump can be the way out, one of the consequences is not only losing a heck of a lot of friends, but also you will be the party pooper. You know, nobody wants to talk to you. And
right.
Because it's always reduced to that thing. And in that way, it's interesting. I even wrote down, "Don't touch Trump," because I'm always being blamed. You know, like, okay, everybody says like I'm too political on this here. But there is something that I think, and I totally agree with that. You know, if you believe that what Hexav is doing is a good crusade, well, then yeah.
But here's the deal. The reason I feel like I can speak to this is because when I say I was brought up fundamentalist, I mean, one of the Christian schools I went to, you wore some form of red, white, and blue every day. And on Wednesdays, you wore a tie with a bald eagle and an American flag and a Bible on it. Okay? So Christian nationalism, I grew up with it. I know what people say behind closed doors. I know what's really going on. And it's been something that has been brewing since the 70s. They're very patient.
Yeah.
Finally they believe that they should have influence in all spheres of life. And so to me, I don't say this on some theoretical way. I come from it from experience.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, once again, I go back to, though, what is it that we're seeing when we're looking at things? And if your politics are determining how you view a human being, right, then what you're really in relationship, first and foremost, is all the lenses that you're looking through. It's like a filter for a photo.
Yeah.
All our conditioning is these filters we have on us, and then reality is somewhere out there, but we have to look through these filters first. That's right. And we impose this. So to me, going full circle here, I think that when we're really fully awake and we look at something like a moonrise happening, it's something that we get used to, but there are moments where you're almost stepped back from it and you're seeing it for the first time. And it's like, holy crap, man, we're like, this is cosmic. This is beautiful. Being a human, being alive is almost a miracle in itself. And you become present when people say that this is otherworldly music, it makes them feel otherworldly. I said, no, it doesn't. It's made in this world with stuff that we have this world. If it's making you feel otherworldly, to me, all that means when I hear that is it's making you understand that you are connected to this bigger, grander picture, and it's wonderful, So to really be able to see what we're seeing is almost like having to have those new eyes. Always.
Andrew, when your bandmate for 30 years now talks about stuff like that, do you also talk about stuff like that when you are preparing a record?
So yeah, I mean, that's always been, we've been friends, that's as important as the music. I mean, the fact that we get along as well as we do, we kind of have always had that Southern upbringing as a kinship. We have a common background, that we can refer to. And yeah, before we'll start a session, we talk. We used to go out and smoke and talk, figure out what was going on, and then work. And then at the end of the day, kind of digest and process things. And yeah, it's important. It's important to refocus.
And I think that that's the case with when you ask about albums, like as we're working on music, a frame of reference for each album starts to come to focus. And we do have a lot of conversations about that because a good example, like Mysterium, we were working on an electronic type album and then my nephew died. And I just told Andrew, I was like, man, I can't keep working on this. This is not a good creative. I need to grieve through the music. Yeah. We just shifted completely into what became Mysterium and with intent, so there's a lot. I mean, our next record after this has already got a frame around it. We know exactly what we're trying to do. And so sometimes when you do instrumental music, you don't have like this linear sequential story that you're presenting lyrically, but you have this aesthetic that you're trying to give to each album. And I think that's something that we continue to talk about and that's how songs get chosen for each album too. Yeah. Is it fitting what we're trying to get across?
Then let me ask this question, and I want to, again, so that it's also leveled out between the two of you, I want to direct it to Andrew. The way I understand it, you basically broke my notion of Hammock, because I thought that part of the music, part of the idea behind it is a sort of escapism. But the way that you guys describe it, it's not escapism. It's rather embracing everything around you.
That I would agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're running from things constantly, there's no good that can come from that. You have to be real with what's going on and real with your relationship to it, and that's where I feel like that we are lucky that we can lean on one another, because we've both had a lot of traumatic things really that could have shifted us off into completely different directions, but we've been able to lean on one another and deal with it. And through the music, like I said before, just it's cathartic for us. It always has been from the very beginning,
And I think a good example of this is we were at a Strand of Oaks show and we were backstage with Timothy and we met his attorney, or at the time it was his attorney. And he's this big attorney, music attorney in Nashville and all that, And Timothy was like, hey, have you heard of this band Hammock? He's like, oh, no. And he's like, oh, man, you got to go and listen to this. And the next morning when I woke up, I looked at his, at the time it was Twitter, at his Twitter feed, and he tweeted, last night I went down the Hammock rabbit hole and I realized I need to call my dad. Like that to me is what Hammock, I think our music can do, is that it's an escape on one level.
Yeah.
But then it's also a reality check for, the people that I love. I think the music does something where it softens it can be both. I think it's an escape and it's a putting you in front of your life at the same time, or putting life in front of you. It's kind of like the story where my wife saw the tree that she had seen for a long time. I don't think just because we stare at the sky and count the clouds doesn't mean we're escaping, right? Some people would say you got your head in the clouds. It's like,
like you are not paying attention to life around.
Right. Actually, it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, I like that. I like that thought. I want to come back to two more things before we come to the quick fire round. And one is, I mean, like it is easy to call Hammock an ambient band or a post-rock band. Both is wrong because, well, I know that no band ever sets out to do a post-rock record or a drone record. But
sometimes we do.
Yeah, but do you really go out and say like, okay, let's do post-rock?
Not necessarily with that head shake.
But let's do post-rock.
But like we've talked about, if there's an intentional direction to a record, we'll lean into that. And
we didn't know what post rock was when we started.
Exactly.
We didn't know what that was. All we knew was
let's be honest. When you started post rock, there were not a lot of bands in the U.S.
I mean, it was Mogwai, Explosions in the Sky, but we knew we liked Sigur Rós. We knew we liked shoegaze bands.
So don't ruin all my later questions.
Yeah. all we wanted to do was make music that if we were in a record store and we heard it playing, we would ask, who is this playing right now?
Yep.
Yeah, but you never did something you never did something that Mogwai set out to do, because I remember the first time I ever was confronted with Mogwai was at the end of the 90s, and they were on a German TV show, and somebody asked Stuart, so what is your goal in making music? And Stuart completely with a straight face told the woman, oh, we just want to be louder than Manowar. You never set out to be the loudest band on the planet, which is a good thing.
No, no. I thought My Bloody Valentine had already done that, but anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No. What I like about the music is that it's so much. It's shoegaze, it's ambient, it's drone, it's post rock, it's even neoclassic, whatever we want to call that. You've already mentioned Explosions of the Sky, Mogwai. Are there other influences that one might not hear or might even be surprised of that influenced you for Hammock?
Well, I mean, we both grew up as little metalheads in the South here, so yeah.
Nugent.
We have
not Southern rock. We had that, but
yeah, not it.
No.
But I mean, we share the love of like Iron Maiden. It was it's just one of the things that we connected on really early on.
Yeah.
And we have that in common with Yancey, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, Yancey likes Iron Maiden too. We were at a Sigur Rós show and we were backstage, and I told him that I didn't get to go to the Iron Maiden show because I had a neck problem, and he started massaging my neck, and then he started playing air guitar like Steve Harris from Iron Maiden, and you can hear that in their music. Obviously, there's a metal thing to it, but I think maybe, I don't know if this would be surprising, but
let's say it like that. If you now told me, oh, we like a lot of trap music, then I would be like, I don't hear that.
Yeah.
Sure.
I would say like there's a couple. I don't even like the word new age, but William Ackerman and Michael Hedges are guitar players that they're acoustic guitar players. They use a lot of alternate tunings, and they actually have been very huge in influencing the way I approach guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if you listen to it, you would go, wow, man, some of this is cheesy. And it is.
But there was nothing like that at the time.
That's right. At the time, it was something that, I mean, I realized that you could do more with the guitar. The other one, I mean, is obviously the Edge from U2. I mean, like growing up, I remember seeing Live Under a Blood Red Sky on television late at night, and I was like, wow, that is very cool.
You can do that with a guitar, yeah.
And then when I heard The Unforgettable Fire, which is my favorite U2 record, the ambient approach that he did with that, had a profound influence. And, you know, it's not, I guess it's not cool now to like U2 or whatever, but that era of, especially the Unforgettable Fire when they worked with Brian Eno, you know, not knowing who Brian Eno was at the time, I could tell that, like, listening to them, the Church, the Cure, the Smiths, their approach to guitars and the way they layered, and Lindsey Buckingham, Fleetwood Mac, huge for us, you know.
About that U2 thing, I mean, like, of course, it is nowadays a little uncool. I also always make fun of my principal when he's putting on his YouTube music in the background. Oh, that's my working music, and I'm like, music. But no, let's be honest. I also always tell them. For me, up to Joshua Tree, that is a highly influential band.
I like Octoon Baby is the last one for me. That was probably the last one for me.
Yeah, and also there are like 80s bands where I say, like, okay, a lot of people, especially here in Europe, underestimate the influence of, for example, a band like Journey. If you listen to some of the stuff that Neil Schon did on Journey Records, there you see where a lot of stuff comes from.
That spacey approach that he has to guitar solos is huge. And for Andrew, it's Andy Summers, The Police, and that's big for Andrew.
As long as Andy doesn't play Every Breath You Take at a wedding, everything is fine.
He's got to do what he's got to do, man.
Hey, I've been to a wedding where bride and groom decided to have Every Breath You Take as one of their wedding songs, and I was
a song about stalking. They decided to have it.
Yeah, and I was like, afterwards, I told him, like, did you really ever read the lyrics? No, it's such a nice track.
But this is what I mean. People don't hear and they don't see. They just hear what they think they're hearing. You know?
But before we drift off, you have had a lot of really great collaborational partners, and very, very different ones. I'll just take the last two examples that immediately come to my mind: Yellow Card and the Flaming Lips. How far apart can two bands be? Let's just first of all ask, how do these things happen? Do you approach them? Do they approach you?
Yellow Card approached us. Yeah, I went out to lunch with Ryan, and he expressed how much. And originally, it was just going to be working with him, and then he told us how much the band likes us, and they started thinking about getting back together and doing something. And we were just going to do some remixes on a couple of songs, and then it turned into a whole thing. And you know, it's not like we know their catalog extensively or anything like that. I've always thought that emo got a bad rap. Some of us it deserves. But also the idea of emotional, we're right in there with that, you know.
We're both like Jimmy. It's like
pop has early on. Just like pop has a bad renommee because, you know.
Yeah. What you said.
Yeah, we both were into Jimmy World early on.
Clarity was like
still one of the best records ever
for us. Yeah. I don't know that. I mean, I'm not a big fan of their stuff after that, but I will tell you that, you know, Sky, who mixed the first two records in our first EP, we went to see when they came out and performed Clarity in total, like the whole album. That was one of the nights I'll remember, because I just think that Clarity, the guitar work on that, it's unbelievable. And then the Flaming Lips, that was just because we noticed that Wayne had liked some things on our Instagram, and then he asked a question about who did a video. And then at some point, I try to remember this correctly, but he invited us to come out to an art show in Oklahoma. Yeah. And I just think that that's the connection there, because I'm from Arkansas. Andrew grew up on a farm in Tennessee. You know, Wayne's in Oklahoma City working at Long John Silver's, and I worked in a bunch of restaurants and that kind of thing. And anything that has to do with left of center from places that it's more difficult to be left of center.
Yeah.
I connect with that. We have a real soft spot in our heart for that kind of thing. And so we had a song left over from the Love in the Void sessions, and we had a bridge. Andrew took it to his place and wrote this kind of vocal thing with these harmonies. And when he played it for me, I thought that'd be cool if the Flaming Lips could sing that portion of it.
We jokingly said that.
We jokingly said that. Yeah. That'd be cool.
Wouldn't it?
That'd be awesome. And then
wouldn't it be cool if Wayne sang on this one?
Yeah. And it was just the bridge, because it had that kind of Floyd type 70s psychedelia thing. Yeah. And their cool harmony approach they do sometimes would be great. And finally one night, I mean, this is how it happens. I sit around and I think about these ideas, and then I just go, well, it can't hurt to ask, you know? So I got our manager to approach, and they were into it. And then what ended up happening is Wayne went in to do the bridge. And then next thing you know, he's like, Steven got involved. Then they sang the whole song. And then Steven added string pads and some keys. Yeah. And it just turned into a true collaboration at that point.
I have one last bit. And that is because I really was surprised by it. You have released a lot of Blood Moon tracks, however we want to call it, and you put them all together, bundled them up, gave a new one to it. And here, I don't know who wants to answer that, but Blood Moon and the relationship with it and everything, to me, always seems... how should I say, a little pagan. I'm looking for a good word, but you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Isn't that in some way a little contradictory of your Christian beliefs, Mark? Maybe you give it a bridge, but I don't see.
I don't know what I believe. So that's one thing. I think the power of unknowing what you thought you knew with certainty is a beautiful space to land.
Yeah.
Because
it opens up a lot of possibilities.
Well, D.T. Suzuki said that, in the beginner's mind is endless options, but in the expert's mind, there are very few. I'm not saying that I don't have any beliefs, but what you consider like when you say pagan, I feel like there's this two-tier universe that we're talking about, where there's the spiritual.
Yeah, that's why I said the lack of a better word. Yeah.
Like there's the spiritual, and then there's the earthiness. I think the two are intertwined. I think that there's a withinness to the within. Mm-hmm. Our opening track, the end breaking. I think moments where you pause to see these wonderful things that happen in nature, you're not seeing something outside yourself. You're seeing something that you are nature. We are nature. Evolution. We're evolution conscious of itself, right? That's what we're doing. We're learning about it's the way the universe learns about itself is through us, our consciousness. And so to me, anything that can create an intimacy with the bigger picture of things is something to celebrate. And so I think anytime that you can experience our music in the space of looking at the sky, appreciating, the vastness of things, I think you're going to have a deeper experience with our music if you allow yourself to listen to our music in those spaces. So anytime there is like something like not anytime, but when we've done this, we've done that because we've wanted people to we wanted to emphasize, go out and listen to it when this is happening and see what happens.
That is something that I wanted to ask. Then basically you should also be advocating for people listening to your records in very different locations, very different settings, right?
Yes, absolutely. The one thing that we know for sure is that our music, once again, because of most of the time it lacks a linear sequential narrative, with lyrics, that people have died listening to our music. They want it to be the last sound they heard. They've given birth listening to our music. I just wanted to say that, yep. Lots of people have birthed children listening to this music. People have taken psychedelics and listened to this music and had wonderful therapy sessions with it.
People will have prayed to your music.
People have absolutely used it for like contemplative meditation type. Absolutely, for sure. And people have listened to it in the midst of the worst shit that they've ever been through in their whole life, through the grief. Also, people have listened to it when they're alone in nature and they get those moments where it's like, you know what? It's just really good that I'm here.
Yeah.
It's really good that I exist, you know? And I think there's a givenness to things that can lead to gratitude. And I think sometimes our music can open up a space where it's like, you know what? This happened, that happened, but I'm glad I'm here.
Does your music still have that effect on the two of you?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's life-saving for us.
Yes, no doubt about it.
And
we don't walk around listening to our music all the time.
No.
I also only listen to our own podcasts 12 hours a day.
But when I go out to Big Sur, you know, and I separate, there's been times where the sequence for Universalis fell into place. What felt like might have been a moment, but it had been a lot of preparation for it. But there was a space that was quiet enough for that to happen. And when I listen to that, our music in that type of space where I've been disconnected from it for a little bit, it takes a while for us to get far enough away from an album that we just worked on for us to finally listen to it the way a person would listen to it. Because you're so busy listening to the particulars and the specific parts, you don't hear the whole.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it just takes distance away from the last record that you just released. And then you put it on in the right space and you're like, it does something to you. Yeah. I mean, we still experience our own music in a real positive way. Also in a very negative way because, you know, it's like, oh, God.
Yeah. Like that same thing happens to me when I listen to some of the older stuff that we released here on our channel. I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
You sound just like so unenergetic and so uninterested and not enough oomph there.
Yeah.
But Andrew, now that Mark has already earned his merits from Big Sur tourist information, so that next year he'll go there for free.
Well, I have to thank the monks for that.
But Andrew, if you could choose a place for a silent retreat, which spot is there a spot that you say, oh, I think that would be a good one for me? Like Andrew, is there someone where I say like that would be my spot?
I'm trying to think where would be the place. I mean, there are some spots in Bradenton where my folks are that if once you get away from the people and not necessarily at the beach where you're just kind of like in the mangroves, you know, it's gorgeous. It really puts the world in perspective, and it puts you in a place in that world. It can be really good. It can be really good for your well-being.
Iceland is a place that we would like to both go. We would
very much love to go.
Yeah. We haven't done that yet, but we should. I mean, everybody keeps saying you should go to Iceland. You're made for it, so that's probably something we should do together. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the question is, if you both go on a silent retreat, how silent will it be?
Probably less than.
You know, like
we might end up working.
But let me guess. I mean, like, of course, it is work. But when I see the two of you and when I hear you talk, I have a feeling as if you're having the best job you could have because you're working together.
No doubt about that.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said this before. If there were two of me in this band, we would have beaten the hell out of each other already. But we balance each other out really, really great. The thing that we do have in common, though, and I'm not saying that you have to be from the South to have a good work ethic, but my dad put me to work in his plant when I was 13. Mm-hmm. Andrew grew up on a farm. The thing you do not have to motivate us to do is to work. Like we like to work. And so we've had jobs that have really been work. So we know that what we do actually is not really work. I mean, you can say it is, but I mean, there's a lot of perseverance in it. Definitely. But compared to working in a factory where there is no air conditioning in the deep south of Arkansas, this is pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that whichever job you have, there could be worse. And I'm very, very happy that I had a job before I became a teacher, which was very, 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 very different. So I'm not one of those whiny crybabies that I see and I have to call my colleagues every day. You know, I know my job. I know my job is hard and it's Sisyphus, but there are jobs which are much harder than being a teacher.
Good example, just so you can know. Like my wife first started working with special ed. You know, with one day I was complaining about. I was still working with other artists, and I was complaining about this person not singing in tune. You know, and it's like, oh my God, it was just all day. And then she was like, I was changing a 13-year-old's diaper today, and he took my hand and shoved my hand into his diaper. And I'm like, okay, all right, well, you win. You win. Let's not have this discussion ever again.
Yeah. Gentlemen, thanks for all the insight into your way of experiencing life, and B, into the new record. It is a really, really good record. The Second Coming was a Moonrise. So if anybody hasn't listened to it when this is out, please make sure you do. But nobody leaves a Veil of Sound interview without going through the quickfire round. And so, as you have already mentioned your wish to go to Iceland, and you've already mentioned Sigur Rós, I'll give you 2 Sigur Rós records, and you have to choose which one you would rather listen to right after this interview. Let's start off with Van, and the other one is the one with the brackets, which has no real name.
Brackets.
Mm-hmm.
Are we answering at the same time? Is that how we win?
That will be no. You ain't Schwarzenegger and DeVito. You don't have to be twins. I don't know why, but when looking up bands on, for example, Spotify, I also always like to look at what other people who liked, for example, Hammock. And there was a combination that I found very strange, because people who liked you also seemed to like Illuvium and Stars of a Lid. If you had to choose one of the two, which one would be yours at the moment?
Almost out of loyalty to Adam, because he got us a gig at Monkey Town and we opened for Stars of a Lid a couple of times. I would say Stars of a Lid, but I listen to a lot of Illuvium when I'm out in Big Sur. Man, that's a tough one.
I now really believe you got money from them, right?
And Stars of the Lid really inspired us to do what we do.
Yeah, to do the more ambient stuff. I mean, I guess because we have a personal relationship and we love Brian, God rest his soul, we'll go with Stars of the Lid.
Okay.
I would. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Nothing against Matthew, there's nothing against. I mean, that's a hard decision to make, man.
Yeah, the next one won't be much easier.
Great.
As you've mentioned that you are so much post-rock, not. Explosions in the Sky versus This Will Destroy You.
Ooh.
For me, it's easy. Shall I do mine first?
Yeah, you do yours.
This Will Destroy You, because I've spoken to Jeremy now a couple of times, so it must be This Will Destroy You.
I think I'm going to go with This Will Destroy You, because I think I like their catalog overall as far as consistency, more than Explosions. But I do love a couple of records by Explosions. So, but This Will Destroy You is where I'll go. Yeah.
Andrew?
Perfect. I'll go with Explosions just to be contrary.
Yeah. There you go.
The contrarian.
Because they need the love. I
think the next one might be hard, but maybe not. You have been collaborating and working with Yellow Card, and I also looked it up that the 2 songs that I chose were songs that you worked on. So I'll give you Ocean Avenue versus Only One. Which one was more fun to work on, if you remember?
Oh, we remember.
Only One.
Okay.
I would agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, the next one is very easy for me. I'll give you 2 records by the Flaming Lips. You have to choose between Yoshimi Battles for Pink Robot, I hope I got it right, versus The Soft Bulletin.
Soft Bulletin.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yoshimi probably for me.
For me, it would also be Yoshimi.
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I have had this discussion quite often, and she's a Yoshimi and I'm Soft Bulletin. Simply because mainly the song "Feeling Yourself Disintegrate." I don't. That's just so good.
Have you ever listened to the Japanese version of Yoshimi, Andrew?
I have not.
There is a Japanese version of that.
I need
where he sings in I don't know if it's him or somebody else, but at least it very, very much sounds like Wayne.
Didn't Sky have that?
Yeah,
he had the Japanese version, but I don't know that
Julian may have. I think you're thinking of Julian.
Okay, yeah.
Julian played on Canonic. He's the first sound that you hear on Canonic, other than the little circus thing that people talking, but. He just took his daughter. He lives in the UK. Just took his daughter, or not just took, but he went to see Yoshimi, the whole album, get performed, because he's the one I've had the biggest debates with about Yoshimi versus Soft Bulletin. Mm-hmm. And it was when I was still drinking, so I'm sure that made a whole lot of sense.
The next 2 couples are basically both connected to your place where you're living, like Nashville, generally Tennessee. Let's go with the old couple first. Dolly versus Johnny.
Johnny.
Ooh.
See, the way you say it, as if it's crystal clear, and Andrew is like...
I agree.
That's rough.
I agree. I do agree that's rough.
Yeah.
But I think
Dolly is a national treasure, honestly. Yeah. But Johnny for attitude, holy crap!
Yeah,
and the songs.
I think that's the main thing for me is that Johnny, that photo of him flipping Music Row, the bird. Yeah. That's just that seals the deal for me. And although Dolly is, yes, she's
also an incredible songwriter.
Yes, she is a wonderful songwriter. Yeah.
And the last one, I have to admit that my daughter and generally my family has a knack for listening to country music. Especially in the summer on long drives, there is something to that. And my daughter, being a wonderful teenager, also, of course, has a love for female country singers. So I'll give you 2 of the more modern ones. I'll give you Casey Musgraves versus, is it Musgraves? Yeah, it's Musgraves, right? Yes. Versus Maren Morris.
I don't know who Maren Morris is, so I'm going Musgraves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Casey, another fantastic songwriter.
Well, then you have something to look up. And I have to say thank you very, very much, gentlemen. It was a wonderful talk. Pleasure to talk with you. And hope to see you on European stages sooner than later.
Yeah.
I say Mark likes to talk in general, so the last words are for Andrew.
Oh, no.
That should not be the last word. No, but whoever wants to have a go, please. Your chance for final last words.
I just want to say thank you for having us. We always appreciate people understanding understanding it. It's always a shock to us that anybody besides us would care about what we do. We're very, very, very lucky that everybody has been so supportive.
So, gentlemen, thanks for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
We loved it.